matter of fact, it was.
Hey guys, welcome in. Just wanted to say thank you for everybody who's already subscribed, but if you haven't, make sure you hit that like button and you subscribe and become a friend of fear today. Happy Halloween, happy October, enjoy the review. Hello, happy October, and welcome in. Now, I've always wanted to do a review of Halloween because every October when this comes around, this time of year, I always get the feeling that I want to watch Halloween. It's changed every horror movie that I ever think about and watch. There was comics, there was video games, even on the Atari, and it was crap, but it was still a video game. And it inspired every other slasher film that you could ever think of. It was one of the original movies that made slasher horror the genre that it was. There's been several iterations of this movie series, and it continues to push out big-time movies with big-time producers. And no matter what, I still love it. It could go a few years without seeing a Halloween movie, but when they finally pop up, you know that you're in for a good time. There's plenty of timelines with the new reboots that have just come out. Halloween Ends is out, and I've watched it, and I've gotta say, I was pleasantly surprised. Yeah, there's some weird corners, but it's still a Halloween movie, and Michael Myers is still in it, and he's still the villain that makes you feel a certain way when he's on screen. No matter what you say, when you see Michael Myers, it's dangerous. Now let's start with Chapter 1, the John Carpenter years. This movie was made in 1978, and they did it with only about $350,000. And then back then, that might have been a lot. But think about how much money they made out. I think they made upwards of over $72 million just on the first movie alone. So back in that time period, that's a lot of money. Now Michael's character is really horrifying. He's known as the Shape. In this movie, he was a character that was supposed to be a human, but also had some sort of possession to where he wasn't human. He was a murderer. It was like a crook, you know, like somebody who would hide out in the shadows, like a voyeur or a thief, but completely more dangerous. Because he's not here just to look at your body. He's not here to try and steal anything from your house. He's here to take your life. And they did so well with the nuances in this movie. When I was a kid, I was so freaked out at every opportunity that Michael popped up on screen, because the shots and everything that led into it, the way he breathes, the music that John Carpenter made itself, you're living in this movie, you're breathing with the characters that are interacting with Michael. Even like this alleyway shot here. It looks scary because you're seeing it from the perspective of Michael. Young kids running around, throwing toilet paper, egging people, ding-dong ditching, and then you see the dog. And this movie's just kept going. Now the first two connect, and that's what made it amazing. The character Loomis tried so hard. John Carpenter didn't want to be a part of the second one. They made an agreement with Mustafa Akkad that he would help them with the fog, and he would help them with Escape from New York, and Carpenter had agreed to come back on and do the second movie. But Carpenter didn't want to because he thought that the first movie he made should stand alone, and he didn't want to remake another movie that he had already done. I see where he comes from, but he did help produce the movie, and he did help make what it is in the end. All of the shots that they had made, Rosenthal had done it. He directed it and produced it, and he did a great job because everything from the second movie is still from the first movie as well. The long hallway shots, the perspective shots. It's really great, and it's terrifying. When I was a kid, I was more scared of the second movie than I was the first movie. Just the thematic feel of being in the hospital. It was overwhelmingly dreadful, and you could feel for the character that was Laurie Strode, and Michael. He's just still the Shape, and he's looking for her relentlessly, and that's all he wants is to end her. Whatever he's driven by. I think that was the scariest thing. You don't know why he wants to kill her so badly. You just know that this maniac that's dressed up in a mechanic suit with a mask on is trying to destroy this poor woman's life at every opportunity he gets. And then also, it was directed, like I said, by Rick Rosenthal. So he had his own idea of it, but Carpenter come in and produced everything at the end. He wanted to end it in a blaze of glory like it should be. And the character Michael Myers, he gets shot in the eyes, he gets shot and lit on fire at the end. But I've never seen a movie where everybody tried to stay together, where they were all suing each other. And it still turned out to be a really amazing movie and really connected with the first one itself. For so much drama that was going on between these two movies, you wouldn't think that it was noticeable because the movies are classics. Every year I watch these two movies. Just like these shots here, this looks like from the first shot. They connect to each other. You can't watch one without wanting to watch the other. And that's what's so great about this. Even though Carpenter had his differences, he still went back through on Halloween 2 and put his own personal touches in it, with him making the kill scenes that are in this very gruesome, because Rosenthal didn't make it to where it was super violent. They at one point wanted to add a bunch of shots that had like 50,000 gallons of blood, but they didn't end up doing it because Carpenter wanted to keep it the way he wanted it. So he ran it back through and just took pretty much scenes from the first one where Michael just pops up. There wasn't as quite as funny scenes like you see there where he's dressed like Bob the Ghost, which I love, but these scenes, they just seem weird. You know, this is Rosenthal's work. You can see it there. Like the scenes where they're just naked and there's no reason for it. Michael doesn't come until later and he burns him to death. But like the scenes where he's hunting Laurie and he doesn't want to kill children in the first one. He just wants Laurie. You feel those things. Your mind wanders. You look at the character and think to yourself, could this be a real person? And that's what was so magical about the first one. He was a real person, but he was dark and mysterious, and you couldn't quite put your finger on why he was here and why he was killing all these people for no reason to try to ultimately get to Laurie. The second one is a lot more gory, like I said. Like I mentioned earlier, Carpenter went back in and reshot all these things, like the needle in the eye, the girl who gets boiled alive, the razor blades in the poor kid's mouth going to the hospital, the blood that the character falls in, and then all the other shots where Michael is just gruesomely popping up and murdering these people were all reshoots and things that were done by Carpenter because he's a magical master at what he does. I really wish that Carpenter would have come through and done the second one just by himself and we wouldn't have got Rosenthal, but it is what it is and we can't change the past. I still love these movies, and like I said, I can't watch one without the other. The character Dr. Loomis, he's amazing as well. The story ends well with Laurie shooting him in the face and everything is lit on fire, and you're hoping that the characters that you've come to love and know escape this one, but it doesn't look like they're going to towards the end. John Carpenter wanted to do the thing. He wanted to get this over with as soon as possible, so of course he killed Michael off. Like I just mentioned, he got shot in the face, Loomis lit him on fire, and this is a way to take Loomis and Michael out, and leave Laurie alive, so they could end the movies and there would be no more Halloween movies. I don't know why Carpenter was so quick to try and end these, because he could have done a wonderful, wonderful series of movies and just kept making them. But I understand to an extent that you don't want to keep doing the same thing. Like I previously mentioned, it inspired the Friday the 13th movies, all the other slasher movies. And Carpenter, I think at this point, just thought it was nostalgia. And he didn't want to be a part of that anymore. So I understand completely, and he was worried about how the Thing would turn out and how his future movies would be if he continued to just focus on this genre, this style of slasher movie, that he would be stuck in one place. And of course, Rick Rosenthal, he didn't even know the movie had been changed at the end until they seen it live in the theaters. How would you like that for drama? Holy shit, I would be pissed. But Rosenthal did the best he could. He put every ounce of energy in all these movies, and it's a shame that they couldn't find a way to come together and make it even better than what it is, because I think these classics could truly be some of the even more top-tier classics if they just would have worked together. Because Loomis is amazing, Laurie Strode's character is amazing, Michael Myers, the story of him alone in itself, and the horror and the mystery of him in a just giant ball of scariness is amazing. You turn and find out that these two are brother and sister, and it's a terrifying story. You know, when you really think about it, Carpenter's movies are legendary, and it's always going to be a part of the Halloween history. no matter how you slice it. See what I did there? It was such gruesome scenes in the second one, though. It's like he was trying to show everybody, hey, look, I still got it. And these are changing the movie completely. I'm gonna make it just like the first one, but the death scenes are gonna be what you notice about this and what stands out. And what everybody else thinks should be great. Because in the second movie, every time you see Michael, he's doing something crazy. There's a crazy murderer, or he's walking around looking for different things. It's insanity at its best. Now, I will talk about Season of the Witch. I gotta tell you, I didn't really like this movie. As a kid, I was excited for the next Halloween series. I, like everyone else, thought Michael Myers was gonna be in it. And he was not. It was about a bunch of witches and warlocks who use masks to basically put on TV and put on these kids so that he can use them as vessels. He starts off with a man at the hospital at a gas station who had this mask and is telling them, warning them that the witches and warlocks are coming, and he burns himself alive. And the younger sister and this man here, who's a detective and a doctor, I think he's both, he's more a doctor than he is a detective, is trying to solve this case. Now, the man who plays this actor here, Tommy Lee Wallace, he was asked to be a part of the second Halloween, but he said it was too violent. So, when he got the opportunity to do this, of course he was on board. Now, I wish they wouldn't have called it Halloween 3, because when you look back at all of these other movies, it isn't Halloween. There's no Michael Myers. Mustafa Akkad had said this is one of the worst decisions they ever made as far as the Halloween series, and they wish also that they would have went back and just named it Season of the Witch, and told everybody before the movie come out, Michael Myers is not in this one, but this is going to continue the Halloween series. They made a drastic mistake. Everybody was expecting to see Michael's white pale mask, mechanic suit, the murderer who survived through whatever endless peril he had just been on, catching on fire and being shot in the eyes. What a wonderful experience to start off in another horror movie, to explain how he survived such terrors. But nope, they went to witches and warlocks. And that's what we got in Season of the Witch. I mean, as a kid, it was really cool to watch because it's spooky. On Halloween, you know, you want to put on a mask. And in this movie series, the whole premise is that the Shamrocks moved in and this factory where they make all these terrible, like, satanic masks that are possessed, and children have no clue. They're just excited that Halloween's coming around, just like children would be. They don't know what they're buying. This makes you want to be aware of your product. There's just a lot of dangerous witches and warlocks in this, and the shooting is very evident of that. You see, one of the first movies where the dangerous, hazardous things are happening to children, and this was in a movie. They were using their bodies as just like temples. Once the mask is on and the TV comes on with that stupid song, then all this shit starts happening. Snakes and crickets popping out. Yeah, Deborah Hill and John Carpenter helped produce this piece of crap, but you know, they pretty much let everybody else have free reign on it. Tommy Lee Wallace did everything he could to make this a great movie. The actors were really good. They were very menacing looking, but it just didn't fit the Halloween series as good as it should have. Now, this is also a cult classic for how bad it is, and just the connection to Michael Myers and the big letdown it was. It was in the movie theaters for 2 weeks and they pulled it. Just like I said, everybody was expecting Michael Myers, and they didn't get it. They got this piece of crap. It's still today one of the lowest budgeted Halloween films, and everybody looks back at it as one of the laughing stocks of the Halloween series completely. Yeah, well, they put good effects in it and tried really hard to create their own story, but it's not its own story if you're calling it Halloween 3. I really wish, like I said, they just would have called it Season of the Witch. And it would have been a lot better movie, and everybody would have enjoyed it a lot more if they would have just explained that it's about witches and warlocks. You just keep waiting on Michael to pop up out of nowhere. And that's what I was waiting on. That's what my parents were waiting on. That's what the people who went to the movie theaters were waiting on. And that's what I think ultimately ruined this whole movie. With Chapter 2, The Return of Michael Myers. This was an amazing time, as I was a little bit older, because when the first series had come out, I was just a young kid, and of course, Any Halloween movie that was coming up that was scary that involved Michael Myers, I was so down to watch it because it had been so long since they had done anything with the Michael Myers situation. And it was wonderful because you're getting another Halloween movie and it could be different. You didn't know. Is it going to involve Laurie Strode? Is it going to involve other characters? How is he still alive? Or was it a continuation of this weird season of the witch crap? It just ended up being the return of Michael Myers and Carpenter and Hill and all the people from the first one. I don't really want to mention their names because I think it's ridiculous. Blanas and Akkad. There you go, I did it. But they were still suing each other over the rights for the first one. And he offered Carpenter to do this movie, but Carpenter didn't think he made enough money off the first one, so he asked for a ridiculous amount of money. And of course, Akkad said no. But we found someone else, and we got what is now known as Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers. And I gotta say, it's one of my favorites, because you don't really see all of this coming. It's awesome. Loomis is back. Michael is back. And the main character that he's after is Laurie Strode's daughter. You thought he died at the end of the second one. He was on fire. He got shot. But he's back in full force, destroying people's lives on the hunt for the last remnant of Laurie Strode, which is her daughter, which is Michael's niece. So, the story of him hunting his own family continues. The mask is a little weird, but the shoots and the way the film was shot, oh my god, it was wonderful. And just the overall environment at the beginning of the movie. And Loomis is back. And all the killing in here is just really gruesome. They somehow connected this to Laurie Strode, which I found very fascinating and entertaining. But Loomis is dangerous in this one. He's trying to find Michael and stop him. He's like 70 years old. And he's using this poor girl that's Jamie to basically string Michael along. What a psychopath. Yeah, he's not here to stop Michael. He's here to freaking help her get her ass killed almost. That's what it seems like, but he's using her as bait. Now these two movies that were next, 4 and 5, also feel like they're connected, because 6 is a piece of crap. And I'm going to get into that here in a second. But 4 was just so amazing because, like I said, the environment itself, the way the movie was presented, how it looked and felt like the first one and the second one. And there was a great story that was connected to it because you still have the family there. He's hunting the daughter of Laurie Strode, which is his niece, and Loomis is here to try and stop him. And you see certain parts of that where it gets really amazing, where Loomis is almost in touch with him, and it ties into the 6th one in certain points, and the 5th one. But Loomis was so sick in the 6th one that he didn't really have a chance to record. So you get his best work here in the 4th one. Everybody loved the 4th one. It was one of the highest money makers it had had. And it done so well in theaters that Mustafa Akkad wanted to make a 5th one almost immediately after. He himself said he was high on the own reactions and how well the movie had done that he wanted to release the 5th one immediately. Boy, was that a mistake. Because no matter how good the 4th one was, the 5th and 6th ones, yeah, they were just real bad. It's like Michael was connected to some sort of cult, and there was all kinds of weird stories that didn't make sense and how the things connect. 4 did so well with the shots and how you do everything. The characters were beautiful. The story was beautiful. You felt for the characters, and Michael was terrifying. And you felt for the main protagonist, Jamie. She's trying to get away. Loomis is trying to convince Michael to come to his trap and using her as bait. It is amazing. When you're watching the movie, you feel the stress and the tension. Like I previously mentioned, Loomis is a nutcase though. He uses poor Jamie to try and catch Michael. This 70-year-old man is waving around a gun in the first movies, like a psychopath telling him, "You don't know what death is." I think he's a psycho the whole time. I never really understood. He shoots a window to try to get a cop to turn around in the second one, and in all these other movies, he's wading through water, looking at death, waiting for Michael. He purposely pulls the cops away from Michael so that he can chase him to try and find him just to fight him himself at 70 years old. What an asshole. These 2 cops got killed, and several other people got killed because he had his own agenda. Now, if they hadn't done this with Loomis, the movie would have been the best Halloween movie probably that has been made. And I love 4 so much. When Michael gets trapped, he hits him with a 2x4. Like I've mentioned several times, he uses Jamie as bait. Yeah, you just can't get past it because you feel weird. They just did a weird job towards the end too. Michael escapes, of course he lives, and then we move on to what I've told you. 5 and 6, The Curse of Michael Myers. Oh my god, this movie was terrible. It was really, really bad. You can't get past it because all of the shots, they look interesting at first. You're into the movie, the story is there, but then all these other things just start happening, sort of towards the middle of the movie where the confusion begins. You know, Michael's there and he's killing people, but these symbols start popping up. And also at this time, the character who played Loomis, Donald Pleasance, was sick, so you don't get to see him a lot. It's a lot of Paul Rudd and this baby and this weird mysterious woman that's a baby caretaker now. Michael does a great job in the movie. The mask is finally back. It doesn't look ridiculous like it does in the 4th and 5th one. And it also has the overwhelming feeling like you have at the 4th one. You know, where he's chasing a victim and he wants him so bad. But they give it a stupid story like he's driven by this cult. And the whole time he's been a cult. It's one of the most underwhelming story reveals in the history of horror. Yeah. This dumb cult basically controls Michael like a puppet. So it kind of takes away all the powers and all of the amazing things that made Michael Myers what he is. The mystery is gone. The dark essence of it is gone. But he returns in H2O. Now, Jamie Lee Curtis had wanted to do a movie at the 20th anniversary of this that basically embraced everybody from the first movie that was on the set of it and redo the first movie and bring all those people back and try to make another amazing Halloween movie in homage to the first one. And everybody was there, and of course Assad, whatever his name is, offered Carpenter to come back. Carpenter said, pay me $10 million because you didn't pay me good for the first 2. And Akkad said, well, you can go yourself. And here we are. Someone else is making the new H2O movie. But it was a way to bring a generation that I grew up on, because at this point I am now a teenager that's almost 18 years old, an adult that's just coming into the world and learning about different things. So this kind of affected me in the same way. I was during this time period, this movie, I felt how the teenagers were if they were to see somebody like Michael. And the fact that Jamie Lee Curtis is back, and she doesn't have any connections to Jamie from the 4th one. Instead, she has a son, and I think his name is John, or Josh, I can't remember. I'm not always going to remember everything, guys. I'm not perfect, and I'm not going to pretend to be. I'm not going to Google something just to do this for a video. You can say that's lazy, but I'm just going to go from what I know from memory, because that's how it is. I'm trying to bring things back from the past, how I remember them, and how I felt, and if I used Google, I felt that it would cheat it. But this movie is really good. It's one of my favorite movies from the timeline. And speaking of timelines, I feel like 1 and 2 is its own thing, 4 and 5 are together, and 6, we don't even want to put that in there with anything else. We'll just let it go. H2O was a rebirth. And watching this again brought back great memories of everything I've seen from Halloween movies. You have Jamie Lee Curtis, who has lived through all of her previous disasters, and like I mentioned, she has a son instead of whoever she had previously in number 4, Jamie. And these kids are trying to run away from Michael Myers. He is back in her life after she thought she had escaped him. This is probably the best movie after 1, I think, because it brings back the horror, it brings back the chase scenes, and you think to yourself, Michael Myers is here to destroy her finally. He destroys her husband. He destroys her whole new life. She can't escape him, so you feel for the character, and the action is back. Oh boy, is it back. It doesn't stop. At every moment, there are people running away from Michael Myers, and him killing kids and teenagers and people that are related to the main character's son, or to her herself immediately, and they're put in precarious positions to where they have to overcome their fears and stop Michael from doing what is necessary to escape with their very own lives. It's high tension, drama, and action at its best, but with the old school Halloween feel, and it made me feel like a kid again. As a teenager, I felt true fright, and every time I seen Michael, I was horrified for the kids, not knowing that there's a shark in the water coming for them. And this redo is basically what they wanted to do for the new ones, and you can see that in the new ones. I think when Jamie Lee Curtis signed on to do the new movies, she knew that H2O was what she wanted those new movies to be. H2O, she wanted it to be such a great movie. But the next movie that was connected to H2O, Resurrection, was a pile of crap. It did a disservice because it was terrible. You're killing off the main character at the very beginning. She's been here the whole time. Jamie Lee Curtis in H2O said that she didn't want to be pulled from the movie because that she wanted to leave. They were going to keep Michael Myers alive. She wanted to kill him at the end, just like they did, but they kept Michael Myers alive because in a contract, he said that Michael Myers can never be killed. That way he can make future movies and products if he wants to. Jamie Lee Curtis was pissed. So they kept the ending where she chops his head off. You start off in the hospital. It's a mental hospital because she's affected by everything, and Michael Myers is still alive. She chopped off some security guard's head that had a Michael Myers mask on, and she's mentally sick and ill, so she's in a hospital because she killed some guy instead of Michael Myers. It's really, really bad story writing and lazy. She kisses Michael Myers and says she'll see him in hell at the beginning of the movie, and then he just kills her. That's one of the most disrespectful ways to kill the main character after years. And this movie, oh my god, you can see it from the acting from Tamara Banks, all these other people. Yeah, that's right. He's in this. No, he's not a bad actor. I'm not saying anything about it. It's just how they presented the movie. The guy from American Pie is in it. All this stuff that was going on was like reality TV based, like all of these reality TV shows. And they tried to put it into a Halloween themed movie and make it like, what is that show? Fear Factor. Or all these other shows that was like, you know, Survivor or stuff like that. That's how it was shot. It was shot with like a Blair Witch movie. And it was really terrible. It was just really badly done because all these quick, swift cuts to these shitty camera angles with like terrible first person views of the person holding the camera is ridiculous. And like I previously mentioned, Busta Rhymes is in it and he basically kills Michael Myers. Now, I want to tell you something. Michael Myers is the main bad guy that is possessed. He's the shape. He's basically like walking death. And then you have a guy who just knows kung fu come along and beat the crap out of your main character and kick the crap out of him and basically insult the whole movie's history. And it just reminds me of Rob Zombie in certain parts, how they just were disrespectful. Yeah, the mask looks like crap too. It's just really bad. Everything about this was bad. My opinion, this is the worst movie. Look, there's like knives at the end of camera sticks. They just make Michael look really terrible in this. Like he's not scary at all. Yeah, here we go, some kung fu. Yeah, that's gonna take out the shape and you're gonna electrocute you. This dude has lived through getting shot multiple times, lit on fire, almost exploded with TNT, but some kung fu moves and shocks will kill him. After this disastrous fifth one, and all the crap of the sixth one, and all this ridiculous stuff in Resurrection, I'm hoping for something new, and hoping for something more, because there were hints that there might be more movies, or this could be end. I was so scared this was going to be the end of all the Michael Myers movies, because that's how bad it was. These Halloween movies were amazing. Yeah, there's a couple stinkers, but like I said, Michael's character is what kept it living on. But even when you make him look this bad, people just fall out of love with the series and are done at this point because of how bad it is and how terrible you make this character you've built up over the years. Again, disrespectful to the fans' intelligence and the character that you've been building of himself. They wanted to bring him back. We wouldn't see him again till many years later. Now the zombie movies, they were really exciting. But this movie started off with a horrible tragedy as Akkad and his daughter had been shot while they were away in some foreign land. I guess it was his home, so he wasn't there to help with the movie. It was kind of like a slow reboot. There was no drama from the past. John Carpenter had given Rob Zombie his blessing, and off we are. Now this movie has its own tonality to it. A lot of people like to call it the Hellbilly. Well, I can see that. There's a lot of trailer park qualities to it, but Rob Zombie was fresh off House of a Thousand Corpses and The Devil's Rejects, so the anticipation of this movie being amazing was super high, because he was a huge horror fan, and it was amazing to have an actor and a director in it that was willing to know what to do to make this series what it needed to be again. But I honestly just think it fell short. There's a lot of characters here that I don't have any connection with, and it has too much of the feel of just Devil's Rejects or House of a Thousand Corpses like scenes. Like they should have been in there and not here. And not to mention the actors from those movies are in this, like Shannon Moon and the guy who played the cop, I can't think of his name, that black guy with the giant chops, everybody. And it's like, okay, so every movie this guy is gonna make, you're gonna have these characters from his universe in here, and it's just, oh my god, it's annoying. Of course, Shannon Moon is Rob Zombie's mom, but not Rob Zombie's mom, Michael Myers' mom, shit. And Danielle Wallace is back, the girl who played Jamie in the 4th movie, and she's the main character's best friend, which I thought was a cool touch to bring her back. But the overall feeling of the movie is just out of touch. There's just too much there. Michael is there. There's too many instances where it definitely feels like it's not the Halloween movie. And it definitely feels like it's Devil's Rejects. They do a lot of things that are weird. They play Mr. Sandman twice. They play Don't Fear the Reaper twice. And they also play Return of the Thing twice. You see everything try to be put together like John Carpenter would have done it. And I think that Rob Zombie tried too hard to think what John Carpenter would want for him to make out of a movie from the Halloween series, instead of just making his own and trying to retake things from the first movie. Now the guy who plays Loomis does a great job. I think his name's like McBride or something. I don't know everybody's names who are actors. Like I said, I'm not gonna look that stuff up because I don't know it. But the overall feeling of this movie, it is spooky. And the character who plays Michael Myers as he's older, the dude is like 6'8". I have to say, this is the most intimidating I've ever felt Michael Myers. The actor who played him, holy cow, 6'8" and 280 pounds. That's the biggest Michael Myers has ever been, and you feel his physical imposing will on this movie. He truly feels like he's an unstoppable force, and he feels like he's the shape, and at any moment he could destroy you. So he did a good job overall with that. But everything else from there just feels like it fell short. You just keep waiting on the story to stop and reconnect itself to some of the first movies, and you don't get that. You just get this goofy movie that's taken off on its own little adventure and its own story. Like they stayed in the Halloween realm, but there's different sides to it. You see back and forth like cuts from the future, from the past, to the present. And it's really annoying because you're just all over the place. You're not sticking with one story. Danny Trejo, he is amazing. I love you, buddy. It was cool to see him in the movie and be Michael's keeper and actually like switch up a role and take care of him and just be there to actually take care of Michael and not be a jerk. And Danielle Harris did a great job as the main character's best friend who was trying to basically tell her to have a good time, loosen up, and stop taking life so seriously. And she did a great job. She's trying to get her over all this crazy stuff that's gone on in her life. And Shannon Moon, what am I going to say about Shannon Moon? Yeah, I think that guy's name is Michael McBride, and if it's not, well, oh well, I'm an idiot. You can call me an idiot in the comments. But he did a great job as Loomis, I thought. But the story itself is just like Michael's mother was a stripper. His father ignored him. That's why everybody is so critical of this movie. It's very hillbilly trash, trailer trash. And it's like, that's not what the movie was about. Michael was just a crazy dude that happened to have some sort of darkness to him that's a mystery. You're taking away the shape itself completely and forming it into like, oh, this kid had a terrible childhood and turned into a fucking psychopath and just wants to murder everybody like a giant hillbilly who's just got loose from the psych ward. Yeah, it takes away completely from the story. And it doesn't give any background to Michael's like darkness or anything. It's played into this story that he's just this giant dude that goes around murdering people because his mommy ignored him and his daddy ignored him and was a piece of crap, and he just had a terrible life, and now he's just this jaded older hillbilly dude. Yeah, it's not anything that you would think would be connected to the Michael Myers stories. The gruesome murders are there. Everything is there for you, but it's also taken away in this. Like the second part of the movie, it just takes away everything you want from the movie. It doesn't give you what you're waiting for. The beginning parts of the movie is a dream from the girl. She just thinks that Michael is there in her head. Michael's story is going on. He's there killing people. So it's confusing. You just don't know what the hell is actually happening because it's all over the place. Like I previously mentioned, Loomis is trying to tell the story of Michael in the second one. And yeah, we're in the second movie. Did you know that? Because I didn't even realize it. That's how bad these two are together. They're pretty much the same movie. It's just a runoff. His character is an asshole in this first one. He goes back and forth. The acting here is so bad. It's like he didn't want to be there. He goes from being frustrated from somebody asking him a question to happy to laughing to confused to I gotta pee and I don't want to be here. I'm out of here. And he goes to any lengths to basically sell his book. He looks like a giant piece of crap in the movie. People are dying and he's using it and exploiting it just to make money. So Michael Myers' health and all these people that are murdered, he's just taking advantage of it. And it has a bad look to it. And I gotta tell you, Rob Zombie is such a genius with movies and just music in general. I think a lot of the stuff he stumbled on accident. I'm hypercritical of a lot of these things, like the way Loomis looks like an asshole, like he just doesn't like women, or he's too famous now to give a shit about the character Michael. They were the people who were involved in Michael's lives. Loomis was constantly checking in on these people. And the actor who plays the main character that Michael is wanting to kill, she is just annoying and just, you can't get a connection with her because you just want her to die. You're hoping Michael comes along and murders her because she's so whiny and complaining and she just doesn't get the role right. What they were trying to do is just make her into this terrified thing, but it's like, why? It doesn't make any sense. Nothing of importance has happened yet. And then in the second one with the pale horse, like all of those like metaphors and things about life after death that are connected to Michael and her, and it's not really Michael there, it's in her head, and Loomis is trying to save her from her own mental depravity and keep her mind intact even though she's been through all these bad, terrible things. Yeah, you know what? It's a pilot, and I call the other ones a pilot too. I didn't feel anything towards this. It didn't feel nostalgic. I didn't feel like it did the first movies. It felt like completely other movies that weren't even Halloween movies. It was terrible, and I didn't like it one bit. And I'm sorry if you love these movies. This is just my opinion. Like I said, everybody's got opinions, and sometimes they're not what you think. There's no reason to get bent out of shape. This is just how I feel. I just don't see the connections here to how Michael is. Her mental instability, the connection with the other characters, it just didn't feel like a Halloween movie. It felt like Rob Zombie tried to make a pile of shit. 40 years of doing this. It's now 45 years. Michael has been doing this for 45 years. Halloween has been around. Danny McBride, they redid the series in 2018. I was so excited about this. The only other movie I was excited about was Suspiria. But they did a lot of the full original cuts from the movies, like the teeth scene where he puts it over the bathroom. Michael Myers is back. And I was never more excited because, like I said earlier in the H2O review, this is the movie that Jamie Lee Curtis wanted H2O to be. So there would be a second one and they could connect to each other. I don't know if she was excited about doing a second one here and that was just part of the story. But she was pretty hesitant in H2O. All of the shots here are just like the first and second ones. The elongated shots from the garage into the house, just like the first movie. And the second movie, the great violence. You can't stop yourself from watching him just destroy somebody. And the character who plays Loomis was amazing. And LeBron James would talk about making The Nightmare Before Elm Street and redoing it because of just how excited everyone was about the new Halloween movies. And he was once again, Michael Myers and Halloween was bringing back the slasher genre and the horror genre back to life. It had resuscitated it and bringing back all these movies from our nostalgia, from our childhood that all of us horror people love. And the first Halloween movie, it was amazing. They did a great job on everything. The story in itself. Laurie is freaking out because Michael is back. This takes place after the first movie. So it's like 2 through 6 and all those other movies after that never happened. And of course, if you've seen my reviews of Halloween Ends, you know how awesome the first and second one is. So enjoy these movies for what they are. It's that spooky time of the year and you want to remember all these great movies. So kick back, relax, do whatever you got to do to get yourself comfortable, light a candle, drink a beer, eat some candy, turn on some Halloween, and enjoy the year. And I'll see you guys on the next Special Kid Spooky Review.